Now at this point you must definitely be okay on 8.5a and 8.5b because you're going to need both of those things to do this. We're going to look at 3 questions very quickly. We're going to look at the overall process of completing your factors. Remember that this works with translating it. That's the first thing we have to do. The second thing we have to do is find the numbers. And what this is going to look at is how do we use those numbers in the fraction. And what I saw most of you doing was when you made your fraction, you forgot you're supposed to use the front number there. Alright, so with that said, looking at this, the first thing we need to do is translate it. So we are looking for numbers that multiply to be 48, because that's what 3 times 16 is, and they should add to make 16. We then have to go through the process of finding the numbers. 1 times 48, 2 times 24, 3 times 16, 4 times 12, 5, 6, no, 7 times 8, no, 6 times 8. And then 7 is not there, 8 is there already. This is my numbers. Again, using our common sense, the only ones that make 16, no, 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 yes, no. Because this is a positive 16, it means that 12 should be positive. And the only way you get from 12 to 16 is if 4 is positive. So we know our numbers are 4 and 12. That is where you take just this part here in the front, which is 3x, and you put it over both numbers. So you put 3x over 4, and you put 3x over 12. Well, if I type 3/4 into my calculator and convert it into a fraction, which I shouldn't have to, I can see that 3/4 cannot be reduced. But if I take 3 over 12, which is what your second fraction is, because you got to reduce it, you have to reduce it, 3 over 12 and reduce it, you notice that you get the fraction of 1/4, which means that you can actually divide both of these by 3. So I cross that out and I simply put x over 4. You have to get rid of this. Again, most of the mistakes I saw was people who kept this even though it reduces. If it reduces, we don't need the 1 on top, but if it reduces, these are my 2 fractions. And all you have to do is put this plus that and this plus that in parentheses. So 3x plus 4 is 1, and then x plus 4 is your other. It's always good to check because we're going to see on the next part that it doesn't always work the way we want. 3x times x is 3x squared, 4 times 4 is 16. I'm pretty sure I'm good. So I would always just check the fronts and the backs. Again, 3x times x is 3x squared, 4 times 4 is 16. I'm pretty sure everything else worked the way it would. That would be 12x plus 4x, which is your 16x. But typically, as long as you're doing this right, check the fronts, check the backs, and make sure they match, because again, you will see later on that there are questions that don't always match like that. But that is how you do it. Alright? Make your translation, find the numbers, put those numbers into a fraction using just the first part. Don't worry about the squared, but just the first part, and then that represents what goes into the parentheses. When you substitute or translate this, when you get numbers that multiply to be 1 times negative 72, which is negative 72, and add to b, well, there's nothing there, so that would be a positive 1. Again, a quick hint on numbers for 1. Whenever it multiplies to make 1, it means the numbers are 1 apart from each other, which means they're right next to each other. The only numbers I know that multiply to make 72 that are right next to each other are 8 and 9. I don't have to make a tree for that because my common sense says if they are 1 away from each other, that should be it. Now you could make the tree and cross all those numbers off, but that's where you're going to end up. The second thing is, because this 1 is positive, it means that 9 has to be positive, and the only way I get down to 1 is to make my 8 negative. The next thing I do is make my fraction based off just off of the term without the squared. So I put x over negative 8 and I put x over 9. Well, of course, 1 over 8 can't be reduced, 1 over 9 can't be reduced, so I turn these into 2 parentheses. This becomes x minus 8. This becomes x plus 9. And that is all. It's not a hard process. It's actually very direct, very quick, but you have to know what you're doing in order to do it the right way. Then the last question we're going to talk about before I let you loose is this one. Again, translation wise, multiplies to be negative 36 because of 12 times negative 3, as to make negative 5 because that is what's right there. I can't think of the number, so I'm just going to make the tree for 36. Now you could also check the numbers as you go. 1 and 36 do not make 5. 2 and 18 do not make 5. 3 and 12 do not make 5. 4 and 9 actually do make 5. Let's see if we can make it work. 5 is positive, which means 9 is positive. And the only way that I get from 9 to 5 is by subtracting. Well, here's the question. Do negative 4, positive 9 make negative 36? Yes, they do. So those are my numbers. So now that I know the numbers, remember I make a fraction based only off of the front part, ignoring the squared. So I put 12x over 4, negative 4, and I put 12x over 9. I then reduce. 12 and 4 can be both divided by 4, which means that I end up with 3x over negative 1, crossing that out so I don't come back to it. Both of these can be divided by 3, so I end up with 4x over 3, again crossing that out so I don't use it anymore. I'll end up with 3x minus 1 and 4x plus 3. I didn't do it on the last one because it was so basic, but checking the fronts, 3x times 4x is 12x squared. Negative 1 times positive 3 is negative 3. That has to be the right answer. So go ahead and go to 8.5c. Begin working on that. And again, if there's any questions that you're having, anything you're stuck on, please bring it over to me. This is a solo assignment because you have to be good at factoring by yourself. You should not need help to get this, so make sure you are working alone in order to get this done. Being slick on this and trying to use somebody else to help you answer it when you're away from class is not going to help you. Make sure you are doing this on your own. It is a 2-day assignment, which means you have plenty of time to get done. Good luck.